and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
So we're back and we're being pretty consistent, eh?
Well, like we say, we've got extra time now that we wouldn't normally have, less. Although it's...
Well, kind of. I mean, when your job's classed as non-essential, you're then thinking, well, what can I do to...
Actually, this week has gone fairly quickly compared to the other weeks. I don't know, I'm just probably getting used to this not doing the regular job sort of deal, but we've been doing other things as well. And I mean, the weather's slowly turning. It's cold wind out there again today, but... Slowly as the weather turns, so I've changed the tyres on Karen's vehicle and my vehicle and took the winter tyres off, put the summer tyres on, and just been sweeping the garage out and cleaning things up and taking the snowblower off the tractor. And yesterday I was finishing those raised vegetable beds I made for a friend. They're 4x8, so she's got 3 of those now, so lots of space to grow veggies. And
we're going to be mentioning that in the podcast as well, and we've got quite a few links to put in the podcast today because it's a bit of a mishmash of a podcast, and just trying to think like what else we've been doing. I know that I've been making some products. I've got a little hobby side business. People who know us know that we've got bees on the property, or if you've been listening. So I make a lot of natural body lotions and scrubs and candles and other things from the wax and the honey. So I went out and delivered some products that people had ordered the other day. And you saying about like the weather warming up, where we live, it's pretty reasonably rural, should I say. So there's a lot of gravel roads, and I've got a 4x4 truck. I wasn't in 4-wheel drive, but I think I should have been the other day because, like you said, the gravel roads that I was driving on, like east of us, it was like driving on ice because you said, what is it? Well,
the first couple of inches will be thawed out and the rest of it's solid underneath. So you just like skating between the gravel, between the tyre and the icy or the frozen section, just ends up literally, it's like ice and you float all over the road.
It's a good job I know how to steer into a skid though. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the other things that we've done different this week, not really different for me from a fitness instructor perspective, because I've done a lot of instructor training courses in the past, but we both did a 1-day fitness instructor training course on Friday, didn't we? Yeah. And it was Play Yoga. So the course is normally run in person. So the people will go around the country and you'll turn up at a place and do the training. But they did it virtually and it was pretty neat, eh?
They did a good job actually, via Zoom. So that was kind of 6 hours on Friday. So Yoga.
It went fast though.
It did go quick. There was obviously a lot of some practical and some theory, and Play Yoga is an amalgamation between plyometric exercises, which is not necessarily jumping, but some bounding or some kind of high energy exercises, and then kind of the break in the middle is kind of a yoga pose that kind of ties in with what you're doing, whether it would depend on what plane you're working, whether it's on the floor or whether you're standing or moving laterally. And again, maybe to the yoga purists out there, they're probably rolling their eyes. How can you combine the two? But
the people did say though in the training that it isn't it isn't a yoga.
Oh no, it's not a yoga class.
Class,
but but again, it's like doing an interval class, but rather than standing there panting in the middle between each one of your intervals, you choose a yoga pose. So it's a good use of time, makes people stretch, puts a little bit of yoga into their lives, and maybe something like they were saying, maybe after you've done that, you'll use some of those stretches again through a cool down like they instructed, or just as a separate thing as for a stretching day. So it opens kind of people's, what's the word I'm thinking of,
to embrace, like maybe incorporating yoga into their routine, because they did say on the Zoom video that some people have taken their course and never done yoga before, and they've actually started to participate and go to yoga classes. And fitness instructors and trainers listening to the podcast, and anybody that's familiar with the term, it's like active recovery. So like you were just saying, that instead of standing around for that 10-15 seconds, you're actually doing what's called active recovery. So you're doing a movement that is part of the recovery.
And the good thing, again, with anybody that's done yoga knows, is you are instructed, I guess is the right word. You're instructed to breathe through the yoga poses, because again, that's what yoga is all about. It's kind of a meditation stroke stretching class, and you will breathe through that while again concentrating on your breath. And if you're concentrating on your breath in between sets, then at least you know the people in the class are breathing through that and recovering and bringing their heart rate down a little bit before the next burst.
So like I said, today's podcast is
a mishmash.
Yeah, it is a mishmash, and just we're going to cover a lot of things. I mean, obviously the last couple of sessions, it's been COVID-19 related, and there's going to be a little bit it kind of is like relative to what's going on right now, but it's basically just some of the conversations that we've had recently, just with people, friends, and things that have come to our attention and just noticed, and not necessarily COVID-19 related, but just, you look on Facebook, social media, and people will make comments and you'll go, start slapping your own forehead because you can't believe some of the things people say.
Well, one the other day as a fitness professional, and the comment was, I've done 48 hours, 2 days now without having any junk food. I mean, what kind of world record's that? You know what I mean? And
and what message does it say to your clients? I mean,
if that's what you want to do, great. But like I say, you're a fitness professional with a lot of people following you. What are you telling, like you say, clients? I know, we kind of don't have junk food banned, but I mean, junk food, like I say, if people want to call it a cheat meal or whatever they want to do, it's fine if that's kind of what your buy-in is. But again, it was just kind of the overarching message. And the other thing that seems to be going around a lot again at the minute, again, I guess people are sitting at home, is like these eat clean challenges.
Is that like, when you wash your cucumber and things like that?
Not quite, no, but admittedly, you're doing it for 21 days or whatever, and great, well done. But at the end on day 22, we're back to that thing we've said before. What are you doing on day 22? Most people just dive straight back into the pizza and other things rather than kind of eating clean, if that's what you want to call it. I'm not a fan of the term.
Or cheat meal.
And having that cheat, whatever you want to call it, splattered in there every so often. So, I don't know, it just those short bursts of, like we've said, be consistently well, and exercise enough. Don't go nuts with it, because again, too much exercise is as worse as too little exercise. And that's one of the other things what you were talking about as we were discussing what we're going to do today, is like people's attitude to kind of cooking their own things and kind of looking after themselves and more long term seems to be in the forefront now.
Yeah, so people, unfortunately, because like I say, one thing with the COVID-19, like people have got more time to think, or maybe even look at like cooking your own foods. But couple of angles with that one is, I know I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but I just think it's like really important, because we were talking to a friend today and she brought the same conversation up, that people all of a sudden now are thinking, oh, I've got to get healthy. And it's like, well, why isn't getting healthy a good enough motivator? We've covered this before, but I said a couple of weeks ago there was a local business owner who has got metabolic issues, health issues, definitely would be classed as clinically diagnosed obese. And for years, the years and years and years that I've known this person, and their health doesn't seem to have got any better.
Or been a priority.
Well, or been a priority, yeah. But now, because businesses are having to shut their doors and this business owner is worried about their business, are they going to have to lock their doors? They've got a lot of overheads. And all of a sudden, this business owner's going, oh my goodness, I've got to get myself healthy because I need to keep the doors open. I need to get people through the door so that I'm earning money.
And I don't know if we mentioned this statistic before, but I was reading something the other day, and there was a study, and they're saying these people with metabolic syndrome, like whether I say it's high blood pressure or a combination of high blood pressure, blood sugar issues, cholesterol issues, diabetes, things like that. So they're metabolic issues. And again, if you have more than two, you've got metabolic syndrome, you're actually 5 times more liable to have problems if you do contract the coronavirus than if you don't. So again, like we said, that's a lot of Americans, not so many Canadians, but certainly in some areas of the world, there's a lot of people with that metabolic syndrome, and they're going to be more victim to this than people who have a kind of a normal metabolic process.
And metabolic issues, type 2 diabetes, and the US being a big country with a lot of people. And yeah, the US does suffer a lot from metabolic issues, type 2 diabetes. And that's through eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of junk foods. And again,
inactivity.
Yeah, and going back to statistics that I've got in one of my books and on my website, saying that the average American will spend 20% more on their cell phone bill every month than they will on their actual grocery bill. And that is just mind-blowing that people...
Sadly, that or cell phones are expensive.
I don't think
food's certainly cheaper than what it used to be.
Yeah, food's cheaper, but again, junk food is super cheap in the US. And like I say, people, not bashing the US and not saying that it's every American that spends more on their cell phones than they do on their grocery bills, but there's a big number.
But again, that brings up the other problem then, is you've got a certain demographic that haven't got a lot of money, and those poor people are...
Well, they can't afford a cell phone then.
Well, that's priorities. And that's a whole different podcast. But so again, those people kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if they haven't got a lot of money for the rent, the rates, like I say, if they need to buy a cell phone as well, which most people, it's a necessity. And yeah, literally the food, more often than not with these people, is kind of on the priority list, and they're not willing to spend that kind of money on it. Which again, looking at what's going on, people have started to cook more now, especially local to us and people we watch on social media. And hopefully people are going to take a little bit more notice of their own health, and hopefully cook a little bit more. And like we said a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, use this time to get prep into your routine. So when you do go back to work, or if you're at work now but you're working from home and you have to do the commute, you've got that little bit of extra time now, because again, you know how to kind of prep and maybe prep ahead of time. So use this time, like we've said, wisely. Look at it as an opportunity instead of a hindrance. And
you mentioned at the beginning that you've been making these raised beds, which obviously it's not something that we could ship across even Canada, let alone anywhere else really, but you're selling them locally to people. And the friend that we were talking to earlier, she said people are looking at growing their own vegetables and fruits now, so that they can focus on natural, organic, grown produce, and have something readily available to them. So even in a small little area. And a friend messaged us earlier, actually, because she's going to be taking part in one of my virtual boot camps this week. Hopefully Jan's going to be continuing to like participate. But she sent some photos to us of some roasted tomatoes that she'd cooked, and then she made some homemade tomato soup, and her comment was like, I'm not buying any of that crap that's in like cans. And I said to her, I says, I can't even remember the last time I had soup out of a can. But all she did was she just, I mean, obviously at the minute, because of where we live in Manitoba, the vegetable growing season hasn't started yet. We've got our plants started, but actual fruit being produced is a few months away. But she bought some tomatoes, roasted them with some seasoning, olive oil in the oven, blitzed them up, and cream, butter, seasoning, and hey presto, you've got soup. It's like a no-brainer.
And when you make that, that's just the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Because it's just so rich. And the thing is, what I've found at the minute, again, is, I think we discussed this before, is like the tomatoes that you buy out the store at the minute, they're red, but it's like red water. They're just absolutely bland. So, I mean, once ours start to come, and I think the nicest one you've ever done, which I think the cherries out of the store are better, but use cherry tomatoes and then cook them and then blitz them up. It's so rich. It's just, you don't need a lot of it because it's
no,
just
you can't eat it a lot.
But the tomato smell and taste is awesome. So it's certainly worth doing it.
And like I say, we've got a huge garden on our property. What is about 100 feet by 35, something like that. So we grow a lot of our own vegetables, and we've got things on the property. We've obviously got our bees, so we use the honey, as I said earlier, and the waxing products. So a lot of the natural products that I make through my little side business, Sunnyside Honey Pot, there's like hand and body lotions, those sugar scrubs, and we put the honey in there, the wax in there, and even things like we have bushes on our property called sea buckthorn berries. I won't go into the health benefits of sea buckthorn berries are like too numerous to mention. Just look it up online. But I put that into the products, like the soaps, and I'm going to try using them this year in some of the hand lotions and body lotions that I'm going to make. And, you know, the catnip, the clover, the dandelions, and we don't use any chemicals or pesticides or anything on the property. Everything that we make or eat and produce is as natural as like you can get. And so whether we make it for ourselves to eat like orally or whether you put it on your body topically, like it all gets absorbed into your bloodstream. So that's one of the things that we really focus on with people. So, you know, natural products, whether it's oral or topical, like it all gets absorbed through your skin, and your skin's your largest organ, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. So again, just something else we've noticed, again, a lot of people are posting about is like sitting a lot, and obviously different postures now. I was talking to a client the other week, and we were just discussing, and she was saying how her hip was really aching and stuff, and she's had a hip issue for a while, and the exercises we do and the stretches we do really has helped her, and she's noticed a big difference. And then once the in-home working started, she said her hip was really giving her grief, and she then noticed that her workstation at home was different to the one at work, so she adjusted the workstation at home, and hey presto, the hip started getting better.
And a lot of the people who are like working at home right now, I mean, we have when we designed our house, we designed it so that we do have an office on our second floor. And so we have a big space with like a big desk for the two of us. So ergonomically, we've got it designed. But right now, a lot of people, they have been told, yeah, you got to work from home. They don't have offices. They don't have the ergonomic chairs. And even something as simple as a stability ball, instead of sitting in a chair. But most people, you'll see photos online, they're sat at their dining room table, they're sat on the couch or something. And it's the worst thing ever, but it's just, you know, you got to manage with the, you know, environment that you're in. And you actually have some awesome straps, don't you, that we both like use? Me not as much, because I keep forgetting I'm useless like that.
Well, I hung mine on the back of my office chair. Yeah, I bought these posture straps.
Mine's on the back of a chair, just not this one.
No, last time I saw it was thrown in the ensuite somewhere. So yeah, I got these. I bought one a couple of 18 months or so ago, and they're so great that I got some in. And again, these posture straps.
Can we sell them? Yeah, on your website.
I call it my man bra. But again, we sit. You put it on.
Now everybody's got this visual.
And it just kind of, you tighten it up, set your shoulders back a little bit, pop your chest up, and then just set it back. Not overly tight. But again, I've sat in front of the laptop doing work thinking I'm going to sit up nice and tall, good posture, and after about 10 minutes I'm looking at something else, and that all just falls onto one side. And again, if you look, once you start to slouch over, A, you're opening those shoulder blades up, which is tightening the chest up. B, you tend to sit with your ribs rested onto your ab muscles. So if you sit, that was Karen sitting up in the squeaky chair. So if you sit with your ribs rested onto your ab muscles, a lot of the times you're actually compressing your organs too. So your diaphragm then starts to push down onto your stomach, onto the top of your liver, and everything just kind of gets pushed down and crammed into a smaller space, because the posterior, your back is opening up, and then your anterior, the front area, is closing up. So you're kind of squishing things down. So even just from a digestive point of view, sit and slouch forward isn't a great position. I mean, sitting for long periods of time, as we've said, isn't great. Standing for long periods of time isn't great. There's always that transition between the two, and that just moving around. So what the strap does is, again, the strap just tends to keep you in that sitting tall, nice position. It just, to reiterate what Karen said, I've sometimes sit up in the office on a stability ball, and like with the posture strap, don't just, I'll get a strap and sit on a ball and do it for 8 hours, because you'll pretty much be a cripple after it, because again, your body's not been used to that. Like with the posture strap, I tell people, once you've got it, about 20 minutes, half an hour, take it off for a while, and maybe do the same again in the later in the day. But again, it's something that you kind of need to ease into. Really, if you're sitting in an office, you wouldn't need more than an hour, maybe 2 a day wearing it. The rest of the time you wouldn't need to. And the same with the ball. Don't sit on a ball for long periods of time. Maybe switch from a chair to the ball and back again. But the first time I sat on a ball, of course, just sat on it for like 3 hours doing some work. The next day, I couldn't move or cough. It had been like I'd done an ab workout from hell. It was really deep into the abs as well, because again, posturally, you've got to sit up. And again, with the strap on, you'll set your shoulders back. Strap on, I should really... with the strap around your shoulders, we should really kind of, just don't want that other visual. So again, just from that, just sitting again, like we say, we're moving. So like we've said with exercises, don't go nuts doing too much high cardio stuff. Just again, take your time. Maybe a bit of yoga and walking essentially is the best one.
And ergonomics in the workplace and even at home is like a focus. And like you were just saying about, sitting for long periods of time, standing for long periods of time. I mean, over the last few years, there's been these ergonomic, treadmill desks and people standing up. And like you say, what people have been doing is they've now gone to a standing desk. And so instead of sitting all day, they're now standing all day. So like you were just saying, you're just going from one to the other. And like you say, you need to like alternate between the two, like you just said about the straps. And one of the things with posture and flexibility, and we deal with this like quite a lot, that especially working from home, there's a lot of, when you're slouching, then you start developing like aches and pains that you never had before, like tension in the shoulders. I mean, there's a lot of stress right now. So we all hold tension in our upper body and in our necks and shoulders. And from an emotional perspective and a mental health perspective, like when we have continual aches and pains and joint aches, it can really impact our like mental health and emotional wellness. So there's so much of a bigger picture to consider in this whole living healthy, choosing good nutrition, how you sit, how you move. And like I say, the Play Yoga course that we actually train for on Friday, it's designed to be, one of the formats is 30 minutes, one is like 45 minutes. And we always say to people though, don't we, that like exercise doesn't necessarily have to be what you'd associate with going to the gym. I mean, we teach this like in the corporate world, don't we?
Oh, movement is, lots of different ways to move. I mean, even like you say, you've got kids or grandkids, just chasing them around, them chasing you, having some fun. I mean,
music, dancing.
Think back to when you were a kid and things, and you were on the down the park on the climbing frames and all the rest of it. I mean, even around the yard, just kicking a ball around, throwing a ball, anything, just a little bit of short interval running to fetch the ball and things.
Easter egg hunts, we just had Easter.
There's just so many, but people eat all the chocolate and get pudgy.
Well,
or just give it the kids. But I mean, from that, there's just so many different ways to move, but people, again, tend to pigeonhole exercise as, I've got to be in the gym lifting weights, jumping up and down the rebounder, stepping up and down and something. But again, those are sometimes the core movements, but again, there's so many other movements in the body. And I mean, rotational movements, whether you're like, we've got an acreage, so I'll split wood and different things like that. Digging in the garden, changing sides when I'm digging and things, again, to use both sides. But movement is a huge sphere of different things, not just, again, the kind of those pigeonholed ones of, let's lift some weights and maybe go running.
And like say running, I mean, like we live out in the boonies to a degree, where the northeast of like Winnipeg, and so we have a lot of lanes and roads that are pretty quiet, so we can go for a walk, for a jog, for a bike ride or whatever. And like I say, it doesn't have to be intense. You don't have to go running. We always say to people, especially newbies who maybe want to add a bit more running into their life, it's like pick a landmark, and so I'm going to brisk walk to that lamppost or that person's house, and I'm going to jog steady to the next person's house, and obviously where we live, like most people's houses are like reasonable distance away from each other. So
in the town, you just do a block by block. Mm-hmm. Stop sign to stop sign. I mean, that's an easy one to do. I mean, jog for one, walk the next, jog for one, walk the next. It's not rocket science.
And even right now with the COVID-19, people are like, oh my goodness, like, the 6 feet apart. And if you're out running and you're out cycling, then your breath can travel further. And it's not safe. And you made a valid point the other day that if somebody's jogging or running, or if they're cycling pretty intense, then if they actually have COVID-19 or a respiratory problem, they're not actually going to be able to do those activities and when they're out. But one of the things that we've again recently purchased and sell on the website is some what they're called Fandanas, and they're like a breathable wicking. Well, it's a
multitude of things.
Well, it's a tube.
It's a tube, yeah. You can wear it around your neck. You can wear it as like a mask. You can wear it.
It's breathable, and
you can wear it over your as a headband. I wear mine under my cycle helmet because I don't like my cycle helmet rubbing against my head. And again, if you're sweating, it'll soak the sweat up.
And if you look on his website, he had me modelling them in various different guises and positions. And
there's a great E.T. impersonation in the corner.
Yeah, I look like E.T. on the last photo.
No.
It was hilarious. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want that photo. And everybody keeps saying you look really serious. You're never serious. I'm like, I'm not, but just taking these photos. But again, especially say right now, you want to get out and you're conscious. I mean, especially, well, it doesn't really matter whether you're local tours or national tours. I mean, they can be mailed, but they're great because, you can wear them across your mouth and they're breathable and they're wicking material and it just allows you to get out and feel a little bit safer, more confident. You're being conscious about your own health and other people's. And I know that we've mentioned a few things that we do sell, and one of the things that we're doing right now is that anything that people order from us, we're actually doing it with no taxes. So anything to, encourage people to look at their own health by choosing products that are going to improve their health, whether it's products from Sunnyside Honey Pot, where, you're using something topically, or buying our honey, the posture straps that you sell, the Fandanas, they're all designed to promote better health for you, as well as being conscious about the environment around you as well. So right now we're just going to do everything without taxes. So in Manitoba, that saves people 12% off the bat.
Yeah.
And obviously, if somebody wants something shipping, then, we can't really do anything about how much Canada Post charge you. But no, so that's just like one of the things that we just thought we'd mention right now while we're on the podcast. And, just encourage people just to check out the other things that we do, because, we give you a lot of information. But
yeah, well, again, we've got some free exercise routines on our YouTube channel, and lots of stuff on the RPE Fitness free stuff and video channel, so have a look at that if you want to.
Links in the show notes.
There's links in the show notes to tomato soup and all sorts of stuff. So
yeah, there's stuff on my YouTube, isn't there? Recipes that I've done,
Yeah.
Forget about them.
I didn't. I already made a note.
Looks like I'm making tomato soup this week.
Oh, you bet. So have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.